to be or not to be an NPC? Now, that's a good question. What's up, guys? Escaping Paradise here, and the light's gonna stay off as long as I can last with the lights off before my eyes burn out of my sockets. And I have a couple things I want to talk about. You know, I decided to open up a Discord if you guys were, just to want to knock a debate out. I'm down for that. And yeah, so what we have here in the universe, I want to say, is to be an NPC or not being an NPC. Now, the thing is, right, this happened like the last pod, happened one before that. If I talk about the topic immensely at the beginning of the segment for like 20 minutes, and people come up like, hey, what'd you just say? What'd you say? I'll just repeat, I don't give a fuck. But I'll tell you. So the concept of an NPC is very, very convoluted. It's like very 4chan-esque like humor. Like no one ever like dove deeper into it. I'm not saying that like I'm not saying I'm the first one ever to dive deep into like fucking NPCs as a whole. But just the reality of NPCs being a thing, it's more to it than just being a person who says the same conversation over and over again. It's more than just being satisfied with the status quo. I feel like it's like two avenues, right? So I'm gonna go down the first one. First one, I think it's the ability to go on autopilot without even thinking about being on autopilot. Because I think it's one of the main reasons as to why we call NPCs, right? So, for example, you can go to work, get your 8 hours in, clock out, go home, drink a beer, go to sleep, wake up, do it again. And you'd be kind of okay with it, but you set 3 foundational boundaries as to why you cannot stray from this path. Number 1, you need money. Number 2, you need a sense of entitlement, i.e. having a job makes you feel like you're striving for something. And number 3, it gives you a sense of comfort in the lifestyle that you want to attain, or that you want to go to. It gives you a multitude of factors that ground you into this foundation of NPC autopilot lifestyle. Now, another thing too, right? Because I also didn't notice this. Second factor, being involved in internet culture or anything else involving anything that is like fringe, like video games or even like watching animated cartoons, that within themselves does not make you an NPC, because they're just activities that one uses at one's discretion to expend one's time whenever they're not involved in an activity that requires them to use all of their effort, all of their brain power. You know what I mean? Like you can be like I can think of all the 2K and Madden normally, like they exist on a consistent basis, and they exist for a reason, because we all need events. Some people have sex, some other people have alcohol, some people have 2K19. You know what I mean? And in the long run, if you look at it, 2K19 is a lot less expensive than just going to the bar every day. I'm not knocking any hustles, not knocking any side vent options. I'm just saying that's a thing. But yeah. And so we got to go back into why the NPC is such a thing, such a prevailing phenomenon in current everyday media. Now, the thing is too, right? You can be on Instagram, you can be on Twitter, you can be a Zoomer, and you can be an NPC. Like, for example, have you ever seen like those locals on Twitter, or as they call it, locals, where they talk about like their everyday life, and they basically ground everyday life as the first and only basis of actual life itself, and then everything else just a supplement off of that. I feel like with non-NPC like people, they realize how not important their life is, but at the same time they try to on purpose make it more impactful than it actually is on a grander scale. Like me, for example, right? I feel like, I know my life isn't that valuable in the long run, in the grand scheme of society. If you scope out 100 years, 200 years from now, I don't know who the fuck I ever was. It's like that. I realize that, you know what I mean? A lot of people who are NPCs also realize that. But the thought stops there for most of them, right? Like they're either going to come to the situation realization like, yeah, that's true, but I'm here to live my life and impact those around me, which is a very good mindset to stop at, because you don't have to go into the perpetual just void of going like, I have to do this. If I don't do this, then I will never become relevant. Oh my god, like you won't get into that trap hole, which is very annoying to be stuck into. Because let me tell you something, wanting and craving relevance to not be forgotten in the next 100 years is not the best feeling in the world. I assume all of us have it, but it's like, who has it more than others? I guess I can make it more NPC like. And also, it's a very meta thing to say NPC in general, because the whole aspect of NPCs are that they're like the least important people of the story. Well, no actuality, right? Think of it this way: if you call someone an NPC, you're slightly suggesting that you're a main character, when in all reality you're not. Your value is just as valuable as an NPC, if less in most cases, because at least they're doing something for society, you know what I mean? Albeit being an NPC. But you have to, like, saying that has to come with, like, it's a double-edged sword saying that, because you're also coming off of a conceited, confident, arrogant route of being like, I'm the most important character around this story. This is my story, bitch. You're just a fucking side quest in my main game. You're just a 1 hour mission in my 60-hour game. Looks like that. You know what I mean? Very condescending. Well, write them off that way. But they're there for a reason, right? Like, think of it this way. I want to say a vast majority of my family is around this aspect, because, like, when you go to the line of, hey, how are you doing? And then they're like, oh, I'm doing fine. How's the kids? The kids like, oh, you know, it is what it is, blah, blah, blah. And they're able to assimilate and conversate and be one with basically just everyone else. Well, I feel like the non-NPC, they see that conversation happening and they can choose whether or not to involve themselves into the conversation, or they can just go another path and force them to derail off the regular scheduled programming, which within itself is not really like an ideal case to do at all times. Because if you for example, if you like try to mess with an NPC in Skyrim, perfect example, you mess with them and they're like indestructible, you can't kill them, and you have to comply to the rules anyway. I got a little like lisp. I bit my tongue pretty bad. But yeah. So I guess the whole concept of like wanting to be an NPC is kind of a tricky thing, right? Because you have to forfeit your knowledge of, I guess, arrogance for compliance. Because NPC, I feel like the C in NPC is compliance. I know that's not the case. I know. But I feel like that is the case. Because whenever you talk to one, or just a regular schmegular person on the street, you know, they just go with the flow. You know? Like, this isn't even a political thing. Because you can have like anarchist, complete just alt-rightists be just NPCs in their own right. Because once it's off of politics, then they talk like a normal person. I feel like it's like if you take that prevailing mindset of being like over analytical to the highest degree in every single aspect of your life, you're gonna notice a thing or two that's kind of like a bit more predictable than not in most cases. Like, I remember I would go to work every single day. That I hated my old job. I hated it so much. I would go there every day. And then my boss would be like, hey, what's up, man? And then I said, hey, my supervisor said, hey, what's up? Everyone else said to me, I say, hey, back. I sit down, I say, fuck, I hate this job, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I go through the entire day, you know, I'm talking to people, they come up at around the same exact time. It's very weird. That's another thing for NPCs, right? Another thing, they're very predictable. It's almost like they have their schedule embedded into their skin. It's a very odd thing to notice. And they'll pop up around the same time every single day, like, oh hey, what's up? Oh my god, that's up, blah blah blah. And it's the same like 3 or 4 things in a dialogue tree. And you can't address the fact that they're saying the same 3 or 4 things, because they'd be like, oh, that's weird. Anyway, how are those ravens? And they go back on track. And then they'd have like a little off the record, off the books, off the script conversation about them not having a regular conversation list, and then the next day it'll just reset like nothing happened. It's like living a constant fever dream that just keeps repeating itself, except you're the one person that's noticing it's repeating itself. However, just because you notice it doesn't mean you're not involving yourself in it, because noticing it is also a part of the process of repeating itself. So essentially, you're never getting out of this loop unless you get out of the loop. You feel me? Like you just because you notice a loop doesn't mean you can do anything about it. It's just there. Like you can't stop NPCs being NPCs because there are a lot of NPCs in the world. I feel like it has nothing to do with intelligence either. It has nothing to do with intelligence. Like you're not just like smarter if you're not an NPC. Like you can just be like, oh, I feel like it's just like hyper awareness, right? Again, this isn't intelligence. This isn't like a super ability. This isn't basically like anything you strive for. Matter of fact, it's just like, it's the ability to think about thinking and talk about talking consistently to come to this conclusion, to the point where you're like, oh wait, you said orange 40 times whenever I said the word red. So if I stop saying the word red, you stop saying orange 40 times and forget you ever said orange 40 times in the first place. You can basically revisionist history your future life if you follow accordingly, if you notice the patterns, like it's an actual like RPG game. It's quite kind of wild, to be honest. It's a little wild, but I feel like I haven't looked anything into this, but I feel like it'd be like very close to the multiverse universe aspect, where it's like, I think it's like multiple universes simultaneously existing at once, and the illusion or possibility of time machines being a thing as well. I don't know. It's a very tricky subject. It's kind of hard to touch on because of the fact that like such a niche topic. I forgot my bloody comb. But yeah. Oh, another aspect too of being an NPC. I did mention this earlier, like how like the arrogance kind of like eats your ass, but you get a sense of full-on completion from doing literally nothing, and I love that. I want that. I want the same like feeling of elation and same feeling of achievement I get from doing like hobby or some shit that I get from like just doing my math homework. Because when I do my math homework, right, speaking of which, I gotta go back to school very soon. Fuck the system. But when I do my math homework, right, I feel like since it's a necessity, I don't feel the downright I'll explain this, fulfillment from it, because it's a necessity. Like it's so short term for me that I just forget the adrenaline boost out of it. Because I'm basically an adrenaline junkie and I want to chase whatever is good for me. I'm a very selfish person. I think it's one of the main aspects to being an anti-NPC person, or like noticing NPCs exist, because you are very selfish in nature. You want everything to go your way. But that in itself does not also make you an NPC just because you're selfish, but it is a main factor into including and precluding if you're anti-PC or noticing NPC characteristics in people. Sorry, my tongue is like swelling like crazy. Like talking right now is like causing my tongue to like abrasively rub against my teeth, and it's very a wild ride right there. But yeah. Concept of concepts is conceptually hard to conceive. Thought on myself. I know, very original. Very original. I want to be one because being one, how about this, right? I think this is a better way to put it. So you can be a pessimist, still an NPC. NPC isn't one or two or even three things. It's just an amalgamation of things plus hypersensitivity and awareness. I feel like that's what it is to break out of the mode of being NPC. But doing that doesn't make you any better or worse than NPC. It just makes you aware that you were one and that they exist. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't do anything for you. Like honestly, like even me talking about it right now isn't gonna help improve your life at all. As a matter of fact, it might make your life even worse because you have to realize there's even more things to like do to encapsulate your interests to keep you back on the track of a regular person's life, because you are now aware of things the way that they aren't. not like I unironically want to say it's becoming woke, but it's not. It really isn't. It's just being like, oh wait, you do that thing because this, so that's weird. How come you do that every single time? Like, wow, that's very weird. Oh my god, almost like you're on autopilot or something. Like that's not. It's not gonna help you with anything. So my case is I want to go back to my NPC life. I feel like I had an NPC life right around, I want to say, junior grade of middle school or high school. After my senior year in high school, I kind of just snapped out of it and I realized, oh wow, things aren't as they seem. And wait a minute, I want to do this and that and that. I feel like my extra desires, my ambitions kind of woke me up out of the shell that I kind of wish I wasn't in at all. This is kind of really like triggering me in every aspect, from like waking up from the shattering of my shell that is of the NPC shell. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I want to go back because I want to have my expectations lowered, my pessimism a little bit just dissolved. Because I look at every single situation that can ever happen, like, yep, no, that's just gonna go wrong every single time, and I can't help it. Well, I can't at this point. It's too late now. I can't help it now. I feel like if it was like a bit later or a bit earlier with the awakening, I would have been able to curb the pure concentrated amount of pessimism I have ingrained in my system. But since I technically can't do that, essentially I'm just stuck at the default mode. Let me turn on the lights and I will be right back. So yeah. Now one thing, Jesus Christ, I'm coughing all over the place. One thing I will mention though is that going on autopilot mode is one of the most enlightening, uplifting experiences you can ever like have in your life. Because imagine, I think exercise and sex, basically anything that involves adrenaline and endorphins will get you to that euphoric state. Like imagine if you're just exercising, right? I'm trying to do it now, and next thing you know, just boom, and you're just in it. You're constantly just in that zone, and you don't know if you're in that zone. You just keep going, you just keep doing the activity until your body's trained, and then you go and you shut down. And after that shutdown moment, you come back to reality. Oh, there goes sanity, like that type of stuff. And then a whole hour just passed. A whole 2 hours passed. A whole day passed. A whole month passed. A whole year passed. Your whole lifetime passed. That is what I generally feel like what being an NPC is to enter that euphoric adrenaline paced mode. Of course, without the adrenaline, because you can't be just a walk around with adrenaline just pump through your veins every day. That kind of be insane. You imagine having 24/7 adrenaline. Like that kind of would be wild. I assume that's what it's like, right? Because like you can do anything, dude. You can if you're in that mode at all times, you can do anything. Holy fuck. Like the whole I'm a billionaire by 23, that mentality there. And being able to fulfill that. And have that be your only thing that you crave for. I feel like it's also NPC action as hell. I mean, don't get me wrong. I feel like being NPC allows you to focus solely on like a few things at once and allows you to concentrate and get things done that you need to get done. I mean, it's like, well, yes, you know, being an impactful figure in society is very important. It's also important to realize that fulfilling your own goals is higher than fulfilling goals to meet society standards and to be remembered by society. Because while yes, technically speaking, becoming a productive member of society is a wonderful aspect to hold and cherish. Um, if you don't fulfill your goals along the way, then what's the point of being a productive member of society if you get nothing out of it for yourself? Because it is your life after all. At the end of the day, you have to be selfish for yourself because again, it is your life after all. Very foreign concept to some, but it is a concept to be grasped upon because I feel like myself excluded, selfishness isn't really a trait taught too well in any aspect of anything. I feel like it's always associated with negative aspects. And I feel like that's always wrong because there's going to be people out there who know that being selfish is just a neutral state. You can either choose to be good with it or not. You know what I mean? Like, for example, the whole self-sacrificial aspect of people when they're like, oh, I didn't want that egg casserole that I spent my entire day working on. It's okay. You can eat it all, John. Like, if you were the good version of selfishness, you'd be like, hey, bitch, I spent my entire day working on the egg salad souffle thing in my bob I just mentioned. I forgot. We're going to eat that together, whether you like it or not, because I spent my hard-earned effort, time, blood, and sweat on making that egg casserole. Now, is that an aggressive version of my example? Sure. But it gets your point across. And it also doesn't allow you to hold back that resentment of not being able to eat that egg casserole that you spent your entire day on. You know what I mean? It allows you to accelerate to your true fulfillment quicker because you know what you want. And if, for example, your short-term goal is to just make dinner every week, like once, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times a week, then you should try to excise or cut out anything that won't allow you time or you to make said dinner every day of the week, if that is what you desire. And that might be, you know, cutting out friends, that might be, you know, just ending a conversation short, that might be stop babysitting for like a week or something to get this done, anything like that. But technically speaking, a selfish action or an unselfish action is doing something in a desire that isn't truthfully yours. Is that correct? Let's look up the definition of shellfish. Shellfish, not. No, I did say right. Jesus Christ. I can't think. Because, like, unselfish actions are generally anything that doesn't put you in the numero uno spot, which is kind of hard to consistently do because, again, it is your life. And coming from a selfish person, I am quite biased to say self. So giving a definition that isn't quite biased, like objectively just the truth, is gonna be kind of hard for me to say out loud without looking at the definition. But I'm gonna try to align myself in a manner where I can objectively see my aspect of it and line it up with the truth, and whether or not see they're parallel or they're perpendicular and they do have an intersectional path that does end up allowing them to cross at a certain point. So the definition of selfish is lacking consideration for others, concerned chiefly with one's own personal profit or pleasure. So unselfish would be the exact opposite of that, would mean putting others above you. Now, the way selfish is defined is concerned excessively and exclusively for yourself. And I feel like, again, in some aspects, that could be good. And some others, it can be bad. It's like, I feel like the aspect is like the ratio is like 60-40, right? Because it goes like this. Because perfect example, when you get like guilt shamed out of not eating all of your food when you're a kid, it's like, oh, there's starving kids in Africa right over there. I'd love to eat that food of yours. You're just gonna waste it away. I spent all my life, like, bro, I don't want to eat all this. Okay, I just don't. Let me continue living my fulfilled life and not be guilted into eating more than I want. I mean, very, very weird, convoluted, optic wise point to bring up, because if your whole engagement is to say, I don't want to eat, I don't care about the kids in Africa, because that's the predilection. No, that's the aura you're giving off when you say no. I just don't want to eat anymore. Another thing too about the aspect is right is like, were you gonna ship and mail those scraps to kids in Africa? Because if it wasn't just a bad faith guilt trip the person involved, then why'd you bring it up? What if the person just didn't want to eat that much? What if there was just too much to serve? I mean, like, what are we generally doing here? And that's another thing too. Like, you're guilting them into being selfish, but the whole point of bringing that guilt trip up was to tell them to not be selfish by thinking about those who are in need. So if I eat what those can't eat while having them in my brain in need, then won't that make me a selfish person? Because I'm thinking about them while I'm eating the food that I don't want to eat in excess. Therefore, I am fulfilling the definition of selfish, which is to exclusively and excessively think about yourself over others. Very Monka W situation. You know, it is what it is. Like, you can't. It's like you can't control every aspect of everything, because that'd be too easy. Now, along those lines, the same thing like donating to charity, or even like giving others your time. Like, it's kind of hard to consistently do that without sacrificing yourself. Now, one thing unselfishness doesn't really tend to, I guess, a note is that if you spend too much time basically caring for others, or too much time just worrying about others, or too much time doing things for others, then the obvious saying, you won't have much time for yourself. Again, because it is your life and you should live it in your way. Now the thing is, you have to balance it out, right? You have to balance it out in a decently manner. You can't be like me and 100% selfish, because that'll just lead to a toxic, unfulfilled life. Well, at the same time, you cannot also be fully unselfish, because that'll also lead to the same route, except in the opposite direction. You will just have nothing done your way, and you will feel like you got nothing done at all in your life. And at the end of the day, you just feel like you just got scammed. Well, if you go the selfish route, sure, you got everything else you want in your life, yeah, but you have no one else to talk to, nor do you have anyone else to share this fulfillment with anyone else. So therefore, you feel like you lived a scammed, unfulfilled life. So, just like many things in life, finding balance is key, but it's not that easy to find balance in some basically entrenched in your personality. Like, I feel like if you're a more, it's gonna sound really weird, but if you're a more responsible, planned person, you would find it easier to be unselfish, because you can be like, okay, I can pitch this in around 4 p.m. I got this, that, and third to do at 5. So, oh, you need me to move your house? I can pitch that in at 2 p.m. I have something else to do at 5. Like, it's easier to organize the assistance of others, because you have your life planned out. You have everything straight out for you. You know what I mean? You have everything set. Or the selfish, spontaneous person like me, on the other hand, it's like you don't remember what you're going to do. You don't forget what you were supposed to remember. Is that wrong? You don't remember what you were going to do. You don't forget you don't remember what you're going to do at all times. So not remember what you're going to do is going to like force you to not commit to things, because you don't know what's going to happen next, because something you could have committed to probably going to come up in your face. And if you have plans before the thing you committed to, then you're going to have to do contradicting things, which might not end well. Yeah, being selfish in moderation, just like salt, is good, people. It's very good. I feel like a healthy balance, literally everything. It's like not even. I guess the real answer is this, right? So if you find yourself in a situation where you are either having to curb or get your way out of something that you need to get done for yourself due to XYZ reasons, and something else that pops up isn't necessarily a necessity, then I would say, in my eyes, 7 times out of 10, depending on, priorities here and time constraints, I would say pick yourself in most scenarios. Because either A, you can make it up later if it isn't that high on the priority list, or B, it is more fulfilling to get the thing you need to get done in the first place, that you plan on doing in the first place. It's like that. You have to think 1 step ahead, 2 steps ahead, 3 steps ahead, 4 steps ahead. Filler words. I was gonna, the spontaneity versus the planned person. Now, I do have a couple people who are exclusively planners, and it's very weird to even like think about them because thinking about them is quite not hard, but it's a major disconnect thinking about like how they function in society on a regular basis. Because it's like, how are you consistently able to just get everything planned the way you want it planned? Like, how is that possible? How are you just, I guess, like, how are you so good? I guess is the question I want to ask here. How do you have everything set in the way you want to have set with? Like, how do you do things correctly? I guess, like, how does not planning not get you excited? Like, so I feel like organized people, they have like a lot of things in common. It's like they're neat. They pretty much know what every day is going to be like before it even happens. They have consistency, and they get the same rush that I get from doing the opposite things, except they get it from being organized. Now, I do get the benefits of being organized, right? I 100% understand, 100% get them, and 100% relate to them. Because I cleaned my room once, and I feel like I'm on top of the world. I mean, like, I get it. But to consistently get that reward receptor, I guess, I don't know what I'm talking about here, from every single time you do something organized and neat is mind baffling. Because I'm the exact opposite. Like, I would, during the school year, I would first month, every single time the first month, I'd be like, you know what? I think it's time to arrive 1 hour before classes start to make it up. I got my pencil sharpened, I got my folder set, I got my second folder set, I got my notebook, I got my agenda, I got my highlighter, I got my cup of coffee, I got my shoes tied, I got my hair slicked, I got my everything set for the first month. And after that, it's all scenario whether or not I even get up in the morning. You know what I mean? It's just wild. I think I get that rush that organized people get from being organized. I get that from being spontaneous. And in a sense where like I would end up going to or end up arriving to class later in an aspect of like, oh God, I can't make it in time. Oh God, like I can feel like I can get more of a reward out of the situation if I arrive to the situation later, or if I even, just do things that I normally wouldn't do. You feel something else. I feel like consistency is not my thing. And I think that's a problem for any aspect of anything. Because like, well, I understand consistency as a concept is there to keep you grounded, is there to help you understand that life isn't always there to be a reward for you. You just have to be a consistent person to live. It's like, it isn't fun. I know measuring things by whether or not they're fun or not isn't really a good measurement for being an adult, but it does play a factor into whether or not you participate in it. Because if you don't find that much enjoyment into being on time in class, you don't put any stake or if you don't put any pride stocks in arriving on time or even like doing things at all, then your motivation to do them and in turn, your ability to execute doing them at all will just drastically plummet, and your stonks will go burr. And the opposite. The thing with discipline, right? I've noticed my thing with discipline, given that I've been off school for a little bit of time. I just got off, I think, like, so maybe like a couple months ago, I don't remember exactly. Is that without a strict schedule that I set on myself, it's kind of hard to get back into said schedule. Like, I might end up going back to the schedule I set before, but I used to be able to run this YouTube channel I had of mine, but I make a new video every 4 days, and that spacing allowed me to keep a passive side of my mind that would never shut up, keep that going in a sense where it's like it's always distracted because it's always focusing on the videos, and have the rest active part of my brain doing work or just being a productive member of society, because that's the NPC part of my brain. NPC part still exists because that's autopilot essentially. We come to the conclusion that NPC mode is autopilot mode, and without this strict scheduling of the like 5 hours a day of editing in regards to making a video every 4 days, it kind of threw me for a loop. I didn't know what to do with that situation. I don't know what to do anymore. So getting back in that would be very crucial. And I guess the thing is, you have to reward yourself for something as a concept you hate. And I feel like the reward I got from the every 4 day stuff was process of the video making and then the final product, the benefito final product. Now, of course, the final product itself will no longer be a viable option to pursue due to the fact, number one, my computer over here is acting all bougie, and number two, the product itself is or was anti-reviews, and you really can't do that on YouTube if you want to have any future at all, or they'll just delete your videos. I've been experiencing. It's like, it's like, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? I'm just like, oh man, I'm bored, yeah. Another thing with consistency too is like communication. Because communication via consistency via communication is very hard to keep up unless you remember to talk to someone every day. And I do find it kind of hard to remember to talk to people, because like I feel like I don't have to get talks every day. I exist on this planet, but not everyone thinks like that. And not everyone gets their engines revved, not in a disgusting one. I'm talking like your social engines, by becoming an introverted hermit. Most people get that through exertive means. And I feel like I always thought I was an extroverted introvert, but I feel like now I'm an introverted extrovert, meaning that at the end of the day, I am mainly exhibiting introvertive attributes, but I do like have extrovertive qualities, such as being able to wittily come up with a conversation on a drop of a dime if I am interested in said conversation, if I have the energy to keep up with it. If I don't, I'm just done, milk toast, blah, blank, wrong, no duds, everything like that. Everything like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, it actually might be shorter than usual because I bit my tongue. I said it multiple times. But yeah, I don't know if you guys ever had like, because I play Rocket League back there, as you can tell. Let me see if I can see you right there. Yeah, got Rocket League in the back, and I like winning, and I hate losing. However, there are a couple of games where you lose in that game, and it feels kind of cool. Like I feel like this would pertain for a multitude of things, but Rocket League is a perfect example because it's Rocket League, baby. So like, for example, we just go back and forth for 3 minutes in out of a 5-minute game. No one scored a goal. All right. First person, the opponent scores. One person, my team leaves because they got mad, they rage quitted, and then now it's just basically 0-1, 2v3, my side down one person. And then within 2 minutes, we both score like 6 goals, both for teams, back to back. So now it's 3-3, 15 seconds left. So we managed to come back from a deficit of 0-1 down a person in a matter of 2 minutes, 3-3. Of course, the winning team won because they hit a goal over my head and they shot it right in and let me just soak in the salt. However, the amount of elation and sort of enlightenment, I guess, I got from playing that game, it felt invigorating. It felt like I was doing something. I mean, like, it's like never give up, because even if you do never reach your quest, the journey was well worth it. Like, it's like that aspect. Like, that game was exhilarating. I had a fucking bicycle kick goal on that bitch, bro. It was crazy. Like, like it's like, I feel like, yeah, a lot of things go up. Like, for example, like if you have like a unironically a great relationship, you know, and it just ends on amicably, unamicably, I guess is the word I'm looking here. I mean, hey, it ended, but if you genuinely enjoy the ride there, then that's something to look forward to. I guess it's not a 1-1 example, but that's like an example of, could be a good example of that example, even though it wasn't. But thing, it's just like, I guess being content is also another part of being NPC, right? Going back to NPC subject, baby. Going back to the NPC subject, baby. Because being an NPC is like, I said being content. So essentially, it's like, imagine having coffee spit on your favorite shoes. Like, oh, fuck my shoes. Oh, no. You run home, or you just clean them off, or basically you just get mad for that day. And then, like, fuck my shoes. You be mad for the rest of the week until you replace those shoes. And then once you replace those shoes, well, yes, you still have some disdain for the shoes you lost, the money you lost, because of course you have coffee scented shoes. At the end of the day, you'll realize, oh, that's fine, you know, it is what it is. I mean, let's get some new shoes. I got enough money for it. It's like that aspect, right? I mean, assuming you do, because if you don't, then you're kind of reminded of the coffee stained shoes for the rest of your life. I'm not saying it's like a huge burden or difficult to think about, but like it's there if everybody can afford it. But even if you can't afford it, you have to walk around with coffee stained shoes for the rest of your life. It's like, whatever. In about a week, possibly 2, you get over it and you live your life normally. I feel like with a non-NPC, not a person like me, I don't give a fuck, but a person who's like overly sensitively aware, which I assume could be like a lot of people, because like not everyone's NPC, not everyone is not an NPC. I mean, but you do fall in one of the other groups. Like, they would get coffee spit on their shoes. They'd be like, oh shit, coffee on my shoes. Oh shit, what a Janice think about me. Oh shit, what a Becky think about me. Oh shit, what's this gonna do for the rest of my life? Oh, like, they overthink, overanalyze. I feel like they're overthinking and not being content with just understanding how small this situation is, by, you know, what you the short term freaking out, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. Kind of hard to explain words you don't fully understand what they mean. You know what I mean? Basically, like, overblow shit out of proportion, and it's out of your control. Sometimes it gets out of control. Beat my inner side. Ooh. I want to make bread next pod. I want to get in here with a big ass bowl, like put flour in it, like mix it up in my hands, loop it all up, just get like suck the dough on my fingers, just smell the yeast just bubbling all over my orifices, and then put plastic wrap over that baby. After I sprinkle in salt, obviously salt is a very good aspect of bread. And then after I do that, I can be set and essentially just, I'll explain this. Making bread is like making a beat you actually like, because The process isn't you being stuck like, oh, like I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if it's gonna be right. I don't know if I'm just gonna end up getting this I want. The process is like, okay, this sounds good. Okay, this sounds a little bit like I want to sound. Okay, this sounds a little bit like I want to sound some more. Okay. And then you're there the whole time, and you just set, and you got it made. You know what I mean? Like that's the process of making a good beat. Speaking of which, you need to get back into that. I've been off for a minute due to technical issues, which have been fixed for the most. Because my main issues have been the taskbar. It was just completely just disabled. And as you can see on my computer, I had nothing on the window sheet. So I couldn't click on this window sheet here to go anywhere with anything. And that was the main reason as to why I couldn't use the computer for 3 days, because like I have everything on the taskbar because I'm kind of like a pseudo neat freak when it comes to certain things. And if I don't have all of them in the taskbar, I feel like really weird and cluttered having all the shit looking at directly at me in my desktop, because it feels kind of weird like not having it organized. I mean, I want to have some type of I'll explain this. Order in my life? Is that a thing? I want to have order in my spontaneous life, dude. Like, is that too much to ask for? Like, that's all I want, dude. That's all I want, dude. Oh man, I need to get back into once my computer gets back up though. I need to get back into the thick of things, being editing, back into making a channel for making videos for the channel that I abandoned, for lack of better words, and essentially getting back on schedule for school. Because I feel like if I have the video schedule down on my channel on the main one, I can just pick right back up where I was of my last summer semester, because I was able to keep my summer semester work up to par because I had something to distract me on the side. I mean, I had something to keep my mind just going. Like I had some filler to chew on while I had to go through and pervase the filler to get to the. It's like this, right? So it's like in defense of filler. It's like it allows you to fully embrace the main aspects of what you're doing, understand why they're important. If you have something else to do to fill in the void of time when you're not doing it, you know what I mean? It's like, for example, in One Piece, perfect One Piece example for filler. There's this one kid who was in the barrel of Captain Big Mom, whatever her name was, not the one in like 700 episodes. I'm about like the first 10 episodes, like that Captain Mama with the cannon and shit. Her eventually lost weight. Her, yep. That kid there was filler, and he eventually led to be one of Luffy's enemies, who were his friend, since he's technically a criminal. We didn't need to know that. We didn't even need to meet the Cannon Lady Mama. We didn't. The first episode was absolute filler, or the second episode, whenever that episode happened. But you know what? It allowed us to get enough build up for when the actual plot came back and came to. It gave it more. Gave it more background to allow it to have more of a oomph feeling to it. More. I keep saying fulfillment and fulfilling. That's the word of the day: fulfilling and fulfillment. But it fulfills the moment climax of the situation when the main story picks back up. It gives it more context. I mean, like if you just over here doing homework all day, that's the only thing you're doing. I mean, like it'll lose its sauce, right? It'll lose its whole purpose. But if you're doing like, exercise, running, eating, jogging, both multitudes of the same thing, hobbies, you fill in this stuff when you're not doing the main thing. And when the main thing comes back, it won't feel as stress-worthy. You won't feel as such as a drag down, because you had other things to vent off the boredom towards. You know what I mean? That almost sounds like a reverse argument for filler, because basically, isn't the hobbies the main story and the filler is the other shit you have to do? Ooh, hard. Oh, I'm fucking smart, dude. Oh man. Ooh, I don't think anything in regards to so I always hear this thing like, don't get political, don't get political. Everything's political, like sense of where it's like you're trying to implement an agenda. I have to look up politics here. It's gonna take me quite some time. Politics, given the fact my computer is very, 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 very slow here. But I'll find a definition of politics and explain like why everything is politics, no matter what. The activities associated with the governance of a no, that's not. You are making the wrong point for me. Internet, Google. Here it is. Okay. The academic study of the government and state, the activities of government concerning the political relations between countries, the activities associated with the governance of a country or the area, especially the debate or conflict among individuals or party having hoping to achieve power. No, it's not. Politics is the way that people living in groups make decisions. Politics is about making agreements between people so that they can live together in groups such as tribes, cities, or countries. The study of politics is universities called science, political studies are blended below. Well, from that definition, everything isn't political. Technically speaking, right? Because the only thing political is if it's like, having or dealing with people disagreeing or agreeing with actual concepts. I feel like it's more than that because how do I explain that? So let's say when you think of politics, you think of like, presidential elections or mayors of your town or freedom or First Amendment, Second Amendment, right? War. Now, if you have a game such as The Last of Us 2, for example, and it has a lesbian or a masculine woman, that isn't political unless you make it so, right? Like, it's like this, right? It's like, have you ever seen people complain about like a white person being in a video game? And if they do, that complaint itself will be political because white people exist in the real world. So why wouldn't they be in the video game, which is mirror image of the real world in some aspects? Now, of course, you could say, well, what if it's just to release tension? What if it's just for fun? What if it's not meant to be a spicy hot take politicalized? Well, it's still going to end up being like that because games are art and art is political. Now, the reason as to why someone would complain about a white guy being in the game would be blah, 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 power struggle, power dynamic, blah, blah, whatever is that up there, relating to the massive demographic is that third. And that itself would be a political statement, you know what I mean? And so games like Call of Duty Modern Warfare saying they're not political is very odd. Why would they outright state that a game about war, one of the main fucking tenets of politics is relations with other people, then how do they get away with it, I guess? It's because people don't associate video games as being art. They associate them as a means to an end to waste and burn time. Like you can look at Cyberpunk 2077, for example. Look at like trans person. I'm like, oh well, no, that's political. It's like, well, hold up. That trans person doesn't make it political because again, trans people are real. It's not the concept of thing that makes things political. It's what they do with the concepts to make something political. You know what I mean? Not just the thing that exists is like you just can't like it's like saying putting God in the game. Like God in a video game doesn't make it political. It's what you do with God that could be political. Like if you say, "Oh, God is bad," that's a political statement, especially in America, because America loves our Lord white Christian Jesus Savior, that's criticizing one side of the equation, the relations of the people. It's a very complex slash simple situation to be in, because of the fact like it, if you view a game as just a game and wasting time, and you're missing the whole point of it existing. And you could even say fuck it, Tetris is political. You can even say that shit, for example. Of course, it'd be very, 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 very fucking hard to make a case for it because it's just blocks and shit. But you could make a case for it because, again, it's art. Someone made the art who was heavily biased or another in some aspect or some field, and that would in turn reflect in the game because he did create the game after all. It is his image. Also, another thing too, slavery in the video game. Is slavery in a video game political? Objectively speaking, no. What they do with it is. I mean, like, you just can't have the concept of slavery be in the game and then that's it. You have to do something with it. And that manipulation of that said concept is what makes that thing politicized. Because your bias is getting inputted, or lack thereof of a bias, or your assumption of having a lack of a bias is getting put in. But like, my thing is, right, whenever I hear people say, Call of Duty isn't political, or even developers say that, it's kind of baffling to me. Why would you go down an avenue, dude? Like, your game is basically the hyper masculine, toxic male fantasy of running, gunning through the enemy terrorists, through the enemy opposition, through Nazis, through the Muslims. I mean, that's the amazing power fantasy, just drilling people down, getting betrayed, coming back from being betrayed and getting revenge on people who betrayed you, dropping missiles on people, nukes, sniping, thermal scope. It's just murder, kill, murder other people who don't like you. And that is kind of weird because you can go like, wait a minute, how did they get in that situation? Was it because of the relations of said people that they had that might have caused them to go to war? Because, if you're saying war isn't political, that's kind of weird. Because politics, definition, is the way that people living in groups make decisions. So it's literally just a decision. If he's like, fuck it, we're killing these guys, you kind of are being political because you're like, well, the Americans are doing it right because they're American. Like, in most of these games, though, Call of Duty, for example, they always justify it, though. So it's like, not always a hardcore like stance to be like, anti-political, because if one side is always right, then that is a political stance to take. So I'm just saying, like, Call of Duty, I'm calling you on your shit. Call of Duty, it's your duty to not be such a piece of shit. You know what I mean? Tango out on my 6. Beast P90 on my 6. Got a A5150 on my 9er. Got a fucking Blue Tango 7 on my 3. It's you wouldn't understand. You haven't played Modern Warfare 2. But yeah. No. Not spelling that. But yeah, I, despite also wanting to be an NPC, I want to go back to being anime weeb. It's hard to do that though for me because the vast majority of my time I would spend on being an anime weeb is now spent on either listening to podcasts, watching the news, or watching streams. Thanks for the follow, tacos. And I can't. How do I explain this? That's like my whole thing. How do I explain this? I can't not. That's fucking loud. Let me turn that down. Holy shit. I can't like fully come to the actualization of taking any more time out of my day to watch this anime scum or read this anime scum because I feel like it. But at this point, where I feel like I am more inclined to have news shoved down my throat rather than like anime weeaboo shit shoved down my throat. I feel like, you know, like while anime is important because you learn stories that are like very emotional, you know, you learn different viewpoints, you get to see different cultures, you get to see Tagami Bachi, which is probably possibly my second greatest story I've ever read in my life. You do get to mess out in the real world because you're so focused on the fake. Now, of course, you could say that this entire world is fake, so therefore nothing will matter in the first place. But that's a whole nother argument I'm not even willing to have. But I miss it. I miss escaping to stories I love and then talking about it. I want that back. Well, I guess what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna just sacrifice eating or sacrifice sleeping or sacrifice my school life, become a full-time weeb again. It is time to partake and overindulge into the gluttonous consumption of anime production. I think it's time to come back to that. I think it's time for me to become a weeb. Now, the one thing that like activated my weeb stature, my weeb stature, was probably the Welcome to NHK show, because it was so relatable at the time. Like Welcome to NHK was like insanely relatable to the point where, like it was almost reflecting my exact scenario a bit too hard. Like whenever my roommate would do some bullshit, I would never address them. I just try to like evolve my way into enjoying the thing that was atrocious act. Like I remember there'd be like multiple times in my apartment, like not my apartment, my dorm, or my roommate, where he just like smoked just nonstop the cheapest dirt weed he possibly could find, and it would smell like roaches having sex and then burning themselves afterward. That's exactly what it smelled like. It was vile. It was disgusting. It was just cretinous. Another thing he did was he was chopping chicken at the middle of the night, and then he just said fuck it, left, and just left the raw chicken in the sink. And I woke up and I smelled that wonderful, beautiful aroma of rotting flesh in the morning, and I had to take care of that. And again, I never addressed it, I never talked about it, I never brought it up because I was so focused on becoming one of myself that I blocked him out and didn't see him as, you know, something that could be confronted. I saw him as a thing that was to be evolved around, like a tree trying to grow through a rain pipe to get the roots from the top of the roof to the ground. That's how I saw the relationship there. It was very not parasitic. It was very negative, I guess. Just be honest here. And I guess spoilers for NHK. It's essentially like a NEET going through NEETdom, neither educated or it's what's it? Neither educated, employed, or in training. That's what a NEET is called. And while he's being a NEET, he also is in an apartment that he had set up from, I think, one of his parents or his family members, because he was originally supposed to either go to college or have a job, and he decided to not do either and just have the money continue funneling to him to live in the apartment perpetually, you know, infinitely. And he was just living a life, you know, of just being a tier scumbag, highest degree, and like he found his suicide fucking forum. I think either on 4chan, it's some like 4chan knockoff. And he's like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm gonna go there. And then while, you know, pursuing to go to the suicide cult, I guess, I don't know what it's called. I don't know. Like it's just more like a meetup to kill yourself, like that. He met a girl on the way, and the girl was like based on his level, just like as mentally fucked up. And the, you know, hilarity ensues. You know, you got two depressed people just communicating. It's bound to be funny because they're both awkward as shit. And I liked it, you know. It ended pretty wholesome despite it having really dark prevailing themes just embedded in the entire series. I liked it. It's very fun. It's a very wholesome darkness. It's like I'll explain this. It's like if One Piece have no. It's like if One Piece had Whitebeard. What's not Whitebeard? What's his name? I guess Whitebeard, right? Yeah. If One Piece had Whitebeard live, that would be like the wholesome ending to that tragic, depressing arc because he was just getting dicked on. You know what I mean? And since he didn't live and he died, it ended up being depressing, and the whole thing was depressing. But if he lived, then NHK would fulfill that. Then NHK would fit that exact moment by being, depressed but a happy ending. Yeah, NHK, very very good, very good. It's top tier cultural. um being out of touch. Being out of touch is very easy to do because it took me about 3 months to forget a vast majority of the plots I was reading. I was on the brink of finishing Demon Slayer. I was on the brink of finishing D Gray Man. I was on the brink of finishing One Piece. I was on the brink of finishing Punch Man. I was on the brink of finishing Hunter x Hunter. And life said, go do something else. I did something else. I came back and I wasn't able to, fulfill myself into, I guess society. I wasn't able to like fully embrace the anime culture because I don't know what fuck happened. What the fuck caused me to not be a weeb anymore? I want to know what happened that made me not a weeb anymore because I want to give this like step-by-step guide to cure people out of being a massive weeb because I was top tier. I was buying figurines and shit, dude. I was buying like multitude of Magna, dude. I have like the entire Dragon Ball Z set that costs like $300 in my room right now, dude. I have JoJo seasons 1 through 4 in my room right now, dude. I have like My Hero Academia chapters 1 through 9 in my room right now. Like I have like so much weeb shit. Like it's all could have ended if I just found out how to not become a weeb earlier on. So I'm noticing something, right? I'm noticing that one of the main things I'm realizing now that made me a weeb was the ability to share being a weeb. Because I feel like when I would go on Twitter consistently, I'd be like, hey, brand new JoJo's, hey, brand new Demon Slayer, hey, Boruto's not that bad, hey, and Tegami Machi is very good. Like I was going on Twitter a lot, and I noticed when I stopped participating in such uncouth antics, i.e. Twitter, I became less enthusiastic about participating in these anime activities because I had no one to share them with. So I feel like step one in not being a weeb, address you're a weeb easily. Just address the fact you're a weeb. It's that's like step number one, because once you do that, you're able to steps everything else after. Step two is find out what is the source of you being a weeb. The source of you being a weeb, is it just to escape real life, or is it because you like sharing your weebdom to other people? If it's to escape real life, find a different hobby. Find something else you like to do that could take up the extra time that you would spend watching 70 hours of hentai, or whoops, Freudian slip there, 70 hours of anime a week. You know what I mean? Hobby can just fill that hole that you need being filled. Or on the other hand, if it was, what other thing did I say? Whatever. That's basically the number 2 there. Number 3, moderation is key. At the end of the day, anime is perfectly fine. And even if you want to escape from the anime weeaboo disgusting cringe fan base, you can still watch it. Just don't partake in the fandom's culture by being a degenerate, i.e., having it consume your life. Make it your choice to consume. You don't let it devour you, take a step out the box and be like, hey, this is a form of entertainment that I can choose to partake in or not. And make it a thing that you dive into every now and again. I am giving a how to not be a weeb guide right now. And it's hot shit. I can sell this for $2 a pop. I'll be a billionaire. Because like not being a weeb would solve a lot of people's problems. It generally would. Like I feel like anime culture for itself, it's very easy to get locked in to becoming a fandom of a certain affiliation due to how, number one, how short most animes are, and number two, how immersive they are, and I guess how predictable too, right? Because like the predictability and immersiveness allows you to dive in there with ease and also understand that like it's a whole new world. You know what I mean? So, well, man, 110. I can go for another 10 or 20. I can go for another 10. I can go for another round. No, 10, 20. So, everything coming back to process now. I have to ask myself, will I be able to continuously keep this up? This daily mind dump, this daily nightmare diary, I guess, this diary dump. Will I be able to keep the pace up? I don't know. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. Who knows? Once my PC gets back up, I'll have something else to keep my mind clocked out of the pandemic. Like this pandemic, especially in America, it'll never end. It won't. There are no signs of it ending. And even if there were signs of it ending right now, we have 5, 6, 7 million cases, I think. So even if it hypothetically just ends right now, if the spreading stopped, we still have people infected, we still have overcrowding in the hospitals, and we still have people with the virus dormant in them. And even if it did stop spreading, like I said before, it has permanent long-term effects that will hinder your life expectancy drastically, given that it's respiratory and you need to breathe constantly. Think of how many times you breathe per day, per minute, per second, per hour. Like if anything fucks up your respiratory system, you're kind of yikes, dude. Like that's basically like every part of the human body. Like imagine like having like shot nerves or whatever. That's a yikes there. Imagine having like a shot digestive system. It's a yikes because you can't eat anything. Imagine having shot muscular system. Yikes, you can't even move. Like it's like the human body has so many weaknesses, but at the same time, all those weaknesses allow us to function perfectly. It doesn't make any sense. It's almost like we have as many pros as we do cons. Like while yes, one simple fall from whatever height you are to your head will instantly crack your noggin and kill you, your brain is able to operate your entire body through a system of like nerves that are like skinnier than this ballpoint pen needle here. Your entire body's operational due to that one tiny nervous system. And like someone surgeon took the entire nervous system out and it was like basically like a foot long of like neural networking. Like it's or a foot or two long. I don't know exactly. It's insane. Holy fuck. Another thing, breathing. While yes, since you breathe out of the same hole you absorb food, you can choke on food and die. But at the same time, as long as you're breathing, you're alive. So that's something. You know, like I don't know. Like the appendix is useless. It's awful. It's a piece of shit. At the same time, there's something smaller than the appendix is also very useful. It's called your tongue. Now hold up. Hold up, right? Hold up. I know what you're gonna say. You're gonna say that has nothing to do with the appendix. Listen. My whole point is the appendix is useless because we evolve out of using it anymore. Like we might evolve out of speaking because you might be able to use like telepathic communication one day in the future, assuming climate change doesn't kill us or coronavirus. But the tongue is like a small blob in our mouths that never stops at all times and is a key point, is a key functional like asset into allowing us to communicate consistently. I mean, that's kind of crazy. That's kind of. Humans are dumb, but they're also intelligent. I think because they're allowed to be dumb is proof of their intelligence. That being said, there are still dumb humans. Oh no. Like, what is there even to do if you don't? Okay, here's my thing, right? So, like, if you have a goal of achieving something, however, achieving that goal is borderline impossible to get, but the journey of achieving that goal is part of the reason why you even did it in the first place. Is it worth continuously doing the said goal to reach? Is it worth continuously going on that journey because you enjoy it, despite you failing or not? I feel like even if you hypothetically, reach for the stars and you grab one, all yours now, you're like successful in life. Your priorities will change at that point. You will have a new set of standards to set yourself by, and you have a new insurmountable goal to achieve at this point. You're like, okay, now I'm rich and famous. Now I want to own the world. I mean, like you're never satisfied. I feel like I don't know if you like either evolve into like having that trait itself, I guess, but the idea and satisfaction, I guess, never being satisfied, it's kind of, I guess, kind of cool because it allows for permanent, non-stop innovation. It allows us to think, well, maybe one day we can have floating cars in the future, dude. Maybe one day, we can stop the world from burning and dying. Maybe one day we can have bionic. Like, it allows us to think that way, and that's kind of cool. I kind of like that. It's like, did my phone just go off? Oh, was that? Yeah, about damn marble. It's like, yeah, fuck, dude. It's like it allows for continual evolution, also allows for continual just advancement in the race, because if we ever came to a point where we're completely complacent and satisfied with life, we would never go past the place we're complacent and satisfied with, because there'd be no point. The whole point of evolving and advancing, not evolve, but the whole point of advancing is to fulfill, is that word again, the unfulfilled desires within yourself. Like millionaires, like, okay, I want to be a billionaire. Billionaires, okay, I want to be a trillionaire. Trillionaires, okay, I want to die now. Like, what I mean? Like, what, I mean, I do want to feast on the rich, so the rich would be a delicious meal. Yum 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 yum. Eat the rich, delicioso. Now, I have a question. Should I tell others about this avenue of me venting as a channel within itself? I want to say no, because the abstract, no, abject, the abject anonymity. I guess I keep thinking of words that don't make sense at some of my brain. It allows me to just vent on a complete ramble and go where my mind wants me to go. That it's just I'm unable to have this sort of thought process at all when it comes to anything content wise I've ever created. Content wise, I'm always blocked in a specific block, and just I have to do that. Now, eventually, if this does become successful, I will have to box myself into the freedom I am currently in. So I have to box myself into being a free thinker. That is a quite foreign concept, but it is something that is very attractive if I do become successful in the future. You know what I mean? Like thing. And I don't know. I feel like having something this like passive, this like small, this insignificant, this irrelevant, it allows me to stay grounded in the sense of, like, I'm able to have this as a genuine project of mine that I love and I cherish, that I just want to commit to. I want to commit to just spewing random bullshit and having to make sense of it on a consistent basis. I want to commit to constantly just getting all this vomit out of my brain and have it be somewhat coherent. So whenever I have to talk in a situation that requires me to talk cohesively, I'm able to do so because I had so much practice with this Escaping Paradise channel. I want to get to a point where I'm able to reach my nirvana because I spent so much time working on the downfalls that I have on a continuous basis. Because, like it or not, I have always had problems of speaking and having speeches in general. But now at this point, I've basically been doing through a lot of shit, and it has allowed me to just continuously open up the avenue and being a better speaker. I don't know if you guys have, actually, hold up. I was about to say, I don't know if you guys have ADHD, but there's a lot of people who've been coming out with ADHD recently. I kind of like it, you know what I mean? It kind of makes me feel like I'm not alone with the ADHD bullshit there. But it's like, it's kind of hard to say stuff if there's 40 things going on in your brain at one time. Like, it's kind of hard to do anything if there's 40 thoughts just trying to say, hey, what's up, man? You want to go to the bar? Blah, blah, blah. Like, it's kind of hard to do that. So to be able to compartmentalize and talk coherently, I gotta use different words, talk clearly, there you go, on a consistent basis, it'll make that hurdle I have to jump through consistently less of a hurdle. It'll make it almost like a bump in the road that is easily drivable over. It'll make it seem like it's a very simple part of life that I can deal with at this point. It's like I've always had like a bum knee. Basically, like when I was doing martial arts way back in my heyday, I fell on my knee and it had like a protruding bump to it, and it made walking harder. I eventually came to a point where I had to I don't want to say evolve over it, but I had to get over the pain in my knee because of how much of activity I would put on said knee. So over time, I now no longer feel pain in that knee. Now, this may be a bad analogy for a multitude of reasons, but you get the point there. Like, due to the fact that I was over time just adapting that knee to a different environment that it should have been put in, you know, a regular rest and sling, it grew into this amorphous blob of, yes, it's a huge bump on my knee, but it's no longer painful. I can deal with it now. I mean, it's amicable. Man, are you fucking kidding me? So, all I know is, right, I might end up segment here. I noticed, like, if you're doing anything at all, and if you don't think about the time at all, and if you don't think about how long you've been doing it, or you don't think about how long it's gonna be, you just do it, time flies by. But when you look at the time and you think about the time, you kind of are in a box, because now your brain is like, okay, let's keep doing this until X amount of time, unless you have like a huge grasp into how much time goes by on a consistent basis, like you have a second clock ticking in the back of your head, it's kind of hard to keep yourself in check from not going all over the place. You know what I mean? Unless, of course, you have everything set for you. That was a segment because, of course, my brain won't let me go past XYZ time. I literally need 6 minutes. I want 1:30 at least. I want 1:30. What can I talk about that'll last me 6 minutes? What can I stretch out for 6 minutes? You know what? Let's talk about stretching things out. Let's talk about procrastinating. Talk about putting things off to the very last second to stretch this until 6 minutes. Now, for my aspect, I feel like procrastinating is a very enjoyable activity because it allows me to get that final rush I would get from finishing activity unplanned, unannounced, and unprepared. I like the rush of things. Now, it's not the rush of being like skydiving or swimming in 10-foot alligator water, but it's the rush of, having to have something done by a certain time and doing it at the last minute with the same amount of effort that you would have done if you hadn't done the last minute, and it feels beautiful. It feels like it feels like you ran a stoplight. That's what it feels like. The last minute shit. And I think you're right. It goes back to consistency being boring for people like me. It's not that like I or we don't see that consistency is very helpful. As a matter of fact, it's key to maintaining anything you want. But it's more along the lines of like that consistency is just another sign of the day being just not entertaining. And while yes, it goes back to not having entertainment be the sole proprietor of priorities or tasks on your daily list of things to do, it should be a factor, right? Like you should include having fun, or you should include venting steam as a part of your day on a consistent basis. Because if you don't, then what you got? You just got boredom. You just got monotony. Like what are we doing here? Of course, there are a couple things I do have on schedule. The one thing I will keep on schedule is my cooking when I remember it, right? Because that's how my consistency works. I am only consistent if I remember to be consistent. There we go. That's how you get it. Because when I remember to be consistent, I'm able to get in line. I'm able to follow certain formulas. I'm able to get this done. And the only reason I'm able to be consistent when I remember is if I make that a huge point in my brain, throw it in the back, but have it like a radioactive ooze that just glows. Radioactive ooze that just glows consistently. And if I don't address the ooze in the background, it's going to keep growing and growing and growing until it's the only thing in my brain. So I make it pertinent enough to where it's actually something that I can think about, but not so prevailing enough that I would do it immediately. Like I wouldn't just drop down and do it right now. I think it's the problem too, is like having to remember to be consistent. It's kind of hard because you have to remember something in the first place. It's kind of hard to remember things if you're just having thoughts rage your village brain here. And a common concept would be just, set a schedule, or write it down, set an alarm. And that's the thing, right? People like me just gonna forget you had an alarm. You're gonna forget you had a schedule. You're just gonna forget the note you wrote down. You're just gonna forget everything you did to remind yourself to do something, because that's consistency. And again, consistency, if you're not consistent about being consistent, consistency itself as a concept will be so foreign to you because you're not used to being consistent. You're not consistent of consistency. If your only consistency is inconsistency, then you're gonna have a problem with being consistent, because you have to build up the discipline over time to instill it into your mind frame, have it to where it's just rapid fast schedule. You know what I mean? All right. Was that 6 minutes? Let's see. 5 minutes of fucking 47 seconds. Oh my god. Well, that was Escaping Paradise, day 3. Now, the end goal for all this, it's not to I don't feel like it's just like to make money or anything. No, it's not. It's like, I feel like just like I said, just a vent. Everything off my chest. And that's basically it. No? Alright. That's it. See you around the same time tomorrow. Good night.